Hi, my name's Kieran, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm about to tell you a mystic story about how my dead brother saved my life. Twice. I have to tell you right away, I knew nothing about the fact that I had a brother. For as long as I can remember, there were only three of us. My father, my mother, and me. My father's an optimistic and kind person, and I'm very close with him. My mother, well, my mother's different. She's not at all like, let's say, the mothers of my buddies. Their mothers are cheerful and caring and talkative, and my mom is always very quiet, and I don't remember that she's ever smiled. But what's even worse is that she sometimes looks at me in a strange, attentive way and calls me not Kieran, but something like Keegan. I had no idea who this Keegan was, and just decided that it was my mother's particular way to shorten my name. My father told me she's not well, and that we shouldn't disturb her, so I'd gotten used to not disturbing my mom. There was another strange thing about my family. You see, we live near the ocean. It's like a 20-minute walk from my house, and our beach is pretty deserted. Well, it was nothing near the Pacific beaches they show on TV, but it was good enough for swimming and surfing anyway. Especially surfing. But I was not allowed to do anything like that. As I've told you already, I was always really close with my dad, and he often took me out to eat, or watch a baseball game, or to play with his pals. But no matter how much I asked, we never went to the beach, which I found really strange. All my friends would surf, but not me. Well, I went to the beach too, and I really enjoyed surfing, but I never had my own board. I asked my father so many times if he could get me a surfboard, but I always got a strict no for an answer. So I gave up and just practiced my favorite activity in secret. Don't you agree that there's obviously something strange about all that? Then one day, I found an old surfboard in the garage. It was carefully hidden and probably forgotten about in the back of the garage, and I was positive that it hadn't been touched in at least 10 years, maybe more. Who did it belong to? Should I go and ask my father about it? At that moment, I remembered that I'd been in a similar situation before, when I was 6 or 7 years old. At that time, I was exploring the attic, and I found a box of toys, apparently forgotten there. They were not my toys for sure, but I played with them for the whole day, and even brought Thomas the Tank Engine with me downstairs. When my father saw it, he gave me a strange look, and sent me to play with it in the backyard. At that time, I was afraid that he'd think I had stolen it, so I quickly explained about the box I found in the attic. He said nothing, but the next day, the box was gone. After a few days, Thomas was gone too. I looked for it for a while, and then erased the whole story from my head, until now. This time, I didn't ask any questions. I waited until my father went to work, and took the surfboard, secretly, making some arrangements with my surf coach, so that I could keep it in his boat hangar. Yes, the board was old, but this was my own surfboard, and it wasn't that bad. One day, when the ocean was pretty stormy, I went surfing. There was no strict ban on swimming that day, but the beach guards were telling everyone to be careful. I was pretty sure of myself and my surfing skills, so I got on my board and paddled out, waiting for a wave, when suddenly a wave came unexpectedly and hit me in the face at that exact moment that I was pushing myself up, ready to go. I fell off my board and got a serious knock in the head. The board hit me and now was drowning together with me. I completely lost my orientation in the water. It was really scary. I couldn't understand where the bottom was or where the top was, and I felt like it was just a matter of seconds for me. If I didn't find a way up, I would drown. I was already short of breathing and panicking, and suddenly, it was as if I'd heard a voice inside my head saying, "Just hold on to the board, and the waves will bring you up." So I grabbed the board and did nothing. Of course, later, I realized that my instincts had led me in the right direction at that moment. But when the beach guards helped me out of the water and rushed me to the hospital, I was sure that there was some mystic guardian angel behind my magic escape from the water. After some checks at the hospital, where the doctors made sure I was alright, I saw my parents who came to pick me up from the hospital. I was still shaken from everything that happened and was not thinking clearly, so I immediately told them about how I was saved by my guardian angel. I couldn't stop talking about it, even though my father shushed me, and I didn't notice how my mother's face was changing. I only stopped when she suddenly started crying and called me Keegan again and said that she'd killed me. That was strange, and I just stopped talking while my father got the doctor. This time for my mother, who couldn't stop crying. So it actually turned out that my mum stayed in the hospital, and my father and I went home together, where we had a serious talk, and he told me about the shocking truth. It turned out that I really did have a brother who drowned, around the same age that I was now. At that time, I I'd just been born and I somehow caught hepatitis, which was so severe that it deteriorated my liver in just a few days, and my older brother volunteered to be my organ donor. So, that's how I got this huge scar above my belly button. When I asked about how I'd gotten it before, my father would always say something like, I'd cut myself when I was a kid, but it was really big. So of course, since I was so ill, my parents were totally preoccupied with me, and my brother was all by himself, and went surfing too soon after his operation. Something happened in the water, and he drowned. My mother blamed herself, no matter how hard my father tried to support her, and convince her that it was just a coincidence. Soon after that, she stopped talking about her older son at all. It seemed that she'd just forgotten it, or rather chose to forget it under all the effects of the stress. On the doctor's recommendation, my father and all relatives decided not to bring up the subject of her older son, pretending that he didn't exist at all. But she stopped smiling, and apparently she remembered something, especially given that, as my father said, I started to really resemble my older brother. But my accident somehow triggered my mother's memories, and she started to allow herself to remember that she had another son. Now she's getting better, and even learning to smile. The doctors say that there's a hope that she'll gradually overcome this long-lasting depression, and we have to stop worrying that surfing will kill me. So, my father bought me a surfboard, and I'm planning to be a great surfer in the memory of my brother. Have you ever experienced something like a feeling that there's somebody who mysteriously guards you? Share your stories in the comments, and don't forget to like my story.